Okay, get this. You bite into a caramel apple snap, you lose a molar.
Ouch.
Right. But instead of dreading that call to the dentist, you just regrow it.
Now that's some serious science fiction.
It does, right? Sounds kind of crazy. But thanks to stem cells, that future might be closer than we think.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
And that's what we're diving into today, no pun intended.
Okay, all right, I see what you did there.
Dental pulp stem cells. DPSCs for short. We've got research papers galore, but don't worry, we've boiled it all down to the good stuff just for you. So get ready, because DPSCs might be the key to not just new teeth, but healing spinal cord injuries, tackling diseases like Alzheimer's, even growing brand new organs.
Hold on, back up.
Yeah.
All that from teeth.
You heard right. So buckle up, let's jump in. You've heard of stem cells, right?
Of course, everyone has. It's like the holy grail of regenerative medicine. Right?
Exactly. But DPSCs, they're special.
Okay, so what makes them stand out from the crowd?
Well, for starters, scientists only discovered them in the early 2000s. Game changer.
Really? That recently? So this is a totally new frontier then?
Brand new. Totally shifted how we think about adult stem cells.
Okay, I'm hooked. Break it down for me. What makes DPSCs so revolutionary?
Okay, so picture this. Inside your tooth, under the enamel, the dentin, you've got the pulp.
Right, I remember that from my dentist's diagrams.
And right there in the pulp, you've got these tiny regeneration factories, DPSCs.
Wait, I'm walking around with stem cells in my mouth right now.
Yeah.
And nobody knew until recently.
Exactly.
Mind-blowing.
Right. And what makes them even cooler is that they're multipotent.
Multipotent. So like those multi-tools, they can do it all.
Exactly. Unlike some stem cells that are kind of stuck doing one thing, DPSCs can become a bunch of different cell types.
Okay, so then why am I always at the dentist if my teeth are basically packed with these super cells? Shouldn't they be fixing things on their own?
They are, actually, but there's a limit, and it all goes back to how these cells originate.
Oh, right. You mentioned something about their origin, like where they come from makes them unique.
Exactly. They come from a special group of cells that form when we're just embryos. Neural crest cells.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
Neural crest. Rings a bell. Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Okay, so imagine, way back when, we're just tiny little embryos.
Okay, picturing it. Go on.
This neural crest, it's like a super organized construction crew.
I like that analogy.
These cells are on the move, migrating all over, forming all kinds of important stuff.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so parts of the nervous system, some of our facial bones.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Of the Great Vic. Guessed it. Our teeth.
So our teeth are basically built by these neural crest cell master builders.
Exactly. And because DPSCs come from that line, they inherit that versatility.
Makes sense. But back to my question earlier, if DPSCs are these super versatile regenerators, how come we even get cavities then? Shouldn't they be able to fix that automatically?
Think of them like a dedicated repair crew, always on call, but they're there to fix the small stuff, like everyday wear and tear.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with it.
And that's actually how our teeth regenerate dentin naturally. Dentin's the tissue under the enamel. Happens all the time.
Wait, my teeth are regenerating constantly.
Pretty much. Every time you drink something ice cold, bite something hard, it causes teeny tiny damage.
I had no idea.
The DPSCs, they sense that damage and spring into action. They use minerals from your saliva to make new dentin. Constant repair work. Pretty cool, right?
That is wild.
Wild, right. But then why can't they just rebuild, like, a whole tooth?
Ah, see, that's the thing. It's not always that simple.
Okay, so what's the missing link? What are we missing here?
Imagine this. A cavity. It's like a 5-alarm fire for your tooth.
Intense.
Right. It's way too much damage for those little DPSC construction workers to handle on their own. They need the right tools, the blueprints, to build something that big.
Okay, so how do we give them those tools? What's the secret sauce?
That's where the really, really cool science comes in. And that's how we take these DPSCs from small repairs to, say, regenerating a whole spinal cord.
All right, now you're talking. How do we give those microscopic workers an upgrade?
We got to give them two things. Scaffolds and growth factors. Those are the magic words.
Okay, so break those down for me. Scaffolds first.
Think of those as the blueprints, the scaffolding. It gives those DPSCs structure, tells them where to go, how to organize as they grow.
So it's like a framework for them to build on. But why can't they just, figure it out themselves? They seem pretty smart.
Oh, they are. They're amazing. But don't forget, we're talking about cells, right? Microscopic. They need something to hold on to, like a support system. And get this.
Okay, you're killing me with the suspense. What is it?
The texture of these scaffolds, we're talking nano-level texture, that can actually influence how those DPSCs behave, billionth of a meter scale. We're talking controlling cell behavior at the tiniest level.
Whoa. So wait, you're telling me that just by tweaking the texture, like the feel of these scaffolds, we can make a DPSC become, say, a neuron instead of a bone cell?
Exactly. Mind-blowing, right? It's like we're giving our little construction crew different tools for different jobs.
I know.
And speaking of tools, that brings us to the second part, growth factors.
Right. The instructions for our tiny builders tell me everything.
They are. Think of them like chemical messengers. They tell those DPSCs exactly what to become. They bind to receptors on the cell surface, flip a few switches, tell those genes what to do, and bam, you got a specialized cell.
So like one growth factor will say, hey, you're going to be a neuron, and another one will be like, time to make some bone.
Exactly. It's
You know.
incredible, right? And in the research, there are some amazing examples of this in action. There's this one growth factor, BFGF. It's known to really get nerve cells growing.
Okay, and what happens? What did they see when they used this BFGF?
They exposed those DPSCs to it, and those cells, they started churning out all the proteins, the genes that you'd normally find in neurons. Way more of them. It's like they flipped a switch.
Wow, that's amazing. But how do researchers even know which growth factors are the right ones to use? Is it a lot of trial and error?
I'm sure there's some of that, definitely. But honestly, scientists are getting crazy good at deciphering this whole cell language.
That's wild. What do you mean by that?
So they look at the signals that these cells naturally get exposed to during development, like way back in the womb. And then they try to recreate those exact conditions in the lab.
So it's like recreating the environment, the signals that tell that stem cell what to become.
Exactly, like fine-tuning a recipe, but for cells.
That's incredible. Cracking the code of life. And speaking of codes, this one study we saw, it found that DPSCs, when you grow them on actual slices of dentin,
Wait, really?
yeah, they start producing markers of odontoblasts.
Wow, so they are basically making new dentin-making cells just by being near the real deal.
It's like they're primed to make more dentin just by being in the right environment.
Incredible. So we've got the cells, we're working on the instructions, even creating these tiny custom environments for them to grow. What's next? What are the real-world applications for all this? That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I think the most exciting part, this goes way beyond just fixing teeth.
Okay, so DPSCs, they're like these microscopic regenerative superheroes, right?
Superheroes in the making, definitely.
And we're getting closer to figuring out how to guide them, how to use their powers, so to speak. But what does that actually look like? Paint me a picture. Give me some real-world examples.
Get ready for a wild ride through the human body, DPSC style.
I'm so ready. Hit me.
First up, spinal cord injuries.
Okay, yeah. Everyone knows how devastating this can be.
Absolutely devastating. Often permanent paralysis, life-changing.
Right, because the spinal cord, that's like the body's information superhighway. Damage there, it affects everything.
Exactly. And this is where those DPSCs, they offer a real glimmer of hope,
Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing the connection to those neural crest cells we talked about. They're good at making nerve, so
Exactly. They have that potential to actually regenerate that nerve tissue.
we could use them to, like, rebuild those damaged connections.
You got it. Researchers are exploring ways to transplant DPSCs directly into the injured spinal cord, sometimes using those scaffolds, the growth factors we talked about.
To encourage those new connections.
Exactly. To encourage new nerve growth, restore function. It's still early, but the potential is there.
It's remarkable. So what else? What other applications are they looking at for DPSCs?
Well, since they're so good with nerves, it's no surprise they're looking into using them for other neurological diseases too.
Like what? Like Alzheimer's? Parkinson's? Those are huge.
Huge. And those are the ones they're looking at, because those diseases, they involve the loss of very specific brain cells. And the hope is that DPSCs, they could replace those lost cells, maybe even slow down or even reverse the disease.
Okay, so we've gone from like regrowing teeth to maybe treating some of the most complex conditions out there. Mind-blowing doesn't even begin to describe it. What else can they do? There's got to be more, right?
Oh, there's always more. Remember how we were saying DPSCs are multipotent?
Yeah, they're like the Swiss Army knife of cells.
Exactly. Scientists are looking at using them to engineer all sorts of tissues, even organs. Think heart valves, bone grafts, even entire organs grown in the lab, all thanks to DPSCs.
Hold on, so you're saying that one day we could be growing replacement organs from our own teeth. That's incredible.
It's a long road for sure. But that's the ultimate goal, right? Instead of waiting for organ donors, you go to the dentist, the doctor, they take some stem cells, and boom, new heart, new liver. The possibilities are mind-blowing.
That's some serious science fiction becoming reality. It's incredible to think that we might have this potential, this healing power, just sitting there in our mouths. DPSCs are way more than just a tooth fairy's treasure. This has been amazing. So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for DPSC research?
The potential seems limitless, but it's important to remember, most of this research, it's still very early.
Right.
We're talking incredibly complex stuff here. There are hurdles, for sure. It's going to take time before any of these therapies are actually available.
So, like with a lot of things in science, a healthy dose of cautious optimism is key.
Exactly. We can't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to be excited, Think about it. We could harness the power of these little cells, treat so many diseases, injuries. It could change everything about medicine as we know it.
It really could. Thank you so much for taking us on this incredible deep dive. It's been fascinating.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And listeners, remember to keep asking those questions, stay curious, because who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one explaining the amazing potential of DPSCs.